There are evenings when the weight of the day gathers quietly along the edges of the mind, evenings when the heart feels smaller than the sky above it, when the air cools but the thoughts remain warm and restless, drifting from memory to worry, from hope to uncertainty. It is in these moments that the soul begins to look upward, searching for something steady, something higher, something strong enough to hold what feels too heavy to carry alone. Take a slow, deep breath. Let it fill the chest gently. Let it drift out just a little slower. Let the shoulders drop. Let the hands unclench. Let the tongue rest softly behind the teeth. Another breath, slow, warm, releasing the noise of the day so it can dissolve into the quiet around you. If these stories bring you peace, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe for more nightly reflections. And share where you're listening from tonight. Your words and presence help keep this space warm and growing. Now, take another slow breath. Let's begin. The scene unfolds gently now, an ancient pathway stretching between low hills, touched by the last soft colors of fading daylight. Golden at the edges, violet sinking into the horizon. The wind moves slowly through the grass, brushing each blade with a calming whisper, as if the whole landscape knows how tired the traveler has become. The traveler lifts their eyes toward the hills, eyes that have seen many roads, eyes that carry both courage and fatigue, and in the fragile quiet of the evening, a familiar question rises: where does my help come from? The answer does not arrive as thunder, nor as a shout from the sky, but as a soft truth settling like warm light on cool skin. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Not from the hills themselves, though they are beautiful, not from the path, though it is well worn, not from the strength of the day behind them, or the uncertainty of the night ahead, but from the one who shaped the mountains, who carved the valleys, who placed the stars in their gentle watch above every wandering soul. As dusk deepens, the promise becomes even quieter and more intimate. The Lord keeps watch, always, tenderly, faithfully, without drifting away for even a moment. The air grows still, as if creation is holding its breath in reverence, as if evening itself is reminding the traveler that they are not unseen, not overlooked, not carrying life alone. Let another breath flow in and drift out. Let the spine ease into rest. Let the mind loosen its grip on every tension. Let the heart allow itself to soften. Rest is not something to earn tonight. It is a gift, offered gently by the God who knows every step taken today, every thought whispered in silence, every hope waiting quietly inside. Under the wide, peaceful sky, the hills stand like old guardians, but even they are small compared to the one who watches over the traveler. The worries that once felt tall begin to shrink. The thoughts that ran too fast begin to slow. The heart that felt overwhelmed begins to breathe again, steadier, deeper, calmer. The wind brushes a final warm stroke across the path, carrying the quiet message that help is not far, not hidden, not uncertain. Help is near, help is present, help is already unfolding in ways the soul cannot yet see. A single star flickers above the ridge, faint but steady, a reminder that even in growing darkness, light remains, guidance remains, hope remains. Hold that small star in the quiet of your heart. Let it rest there, glowing softly, a promise woven into the night, and allow the breath to fall into the rhythm of the land, slow, unhurried, peaceful. The path winds gently beneath the traveler now, a narrow ribbon of earth softened by years of footsteps, shaped by quiet journeys under countless skies. The evening air folds around the scene like a calm embrace, cool enough to soothe, warm enough to comfort, carrying the scent of dust and distant olive trees drifting slowly through the valley. Every sound feels softened by twilight, the faint rustle of grass, the low hum of settling insects, the distant whisper of wind brushing across stones that have watched human hearts wander for generations. And in the midst of this quiet world, the traveler continues walking, slow, deliberate, reflective, each step a release of something carried for too long. The hills rise on either side, gentle in their shape yet ancient in their presence. They stand like silent witnesses to all who walk among them, offering neither hurry nor demand, simply the steady companionship of creation that has always been here, always waiting, always open to the weary souls who seek a place to breathe. The road curves gently upward, its incline not steep but persistent, a reminder that some journeys require small, steady strength rather than grand effort. A reminder that help often arrives not as sudden rescue, but as a quiet endurance gifted step by step. The traveler pauses for a moment, letting the breath steady, letting the body feel the weight of both journey and evening, letting the heart sink deeper into the awareness that the hills are not barriers, but gentle boundaries that guide the path forward. The light lifts along the horizon, shimmering faintly against the edges of rocks and grass, leaving a soft golden trace across the land. It is the kind of light that feels like a memory, like something familiar, like the presence of God resting just near enough to touch the edges of the soul. A quiet realization begins to form, not loud, not sudden, but like water rising slowly at the base of a stone. The traveler understands that the hills are not sources of help, but reminders of the one who made them, the one who stands beyond the landscape, beyond the road, beyond every fear and longing held inside. The creator of these hills holds the journey as gently as the evening holds the fading light, steadying every unsure step, shaping every moment with care too deep for human eyes to grasp. The wind brushes softly against the traveler's clothing, a whispering touch that feels like encouragement, like grace carried on air. Grass bends and rises again, unhurried, untroubled, a small parable of resilience. A bird settles into its nest among the branches overhead, wings folding with a quiet finality, trusting the night to keep watch over it without fear. These small signs of creation, these tender movements woven into the fabric of dusk, become a kind of scripture on their own, teaching without words, reminding without explanation, guiding without command. The traveler steps forward again, feeling the ground steady beneath their feet. The path may be long, the hills may rise on either side, the evening may deepen into night, but help is not behind them, nor far ahead. Help is near, and the road is held by the same God who shaped every curve and stone. There is no moment on this path unseen, no breath unnoticed, no fear uncounted. A faint glow appears between two ridges, the soft promise of moonlight gathering itself for the night. The traveler watches the first silver shimmer rise, delicate, patient, serene, as if the moon itself is rising slowly to accompany the journey, to watch from above with a silent care that mirrors the promise spoken earlier. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The hills no longer feel tall, no longer feel like shadows or looming silhouettes. They feel like gentle guardians lining the way, shaping a safe passage through the vastness of creation. And the road, though long, no longer feels lonely. It feels held, guided, protected by presence that cannot be seen with the eyes but is felt in the steady pulse of peace beginning to gather inside. The traveler breathes deeply again, letting the breath move with the rhythm of the land, letting the evening air fill the lungs, letting the slow exhale ease the body into deeper tranquility. The steps continue, unhurried, unburdened, softened by the growing awareness that help is not something distant to reach for. Help is already here, woven into each quiet moment of this unfolding night. As the traveler moves deeper into the heart of the hills, a deep quiet begins to settle, like a blanket drawn gently across the earth, wrapping the path, the sky, the soul, in a stillness that feels almost sacred. The long road does not feel heavy anymore. It feels purposeful, steady, watched over with a love that does not wander or fade. And in the quiet center of that realization, the traveler begins to trust the night, to trust the path, to trust the keeper who never sleeps. The path stretches on beneath softening twilight, its gentle curves drawing the traveler forward like a quiet invitation to breathe deeper, to see more clearly, to release the weight carried throughout the day. And as the steps continue, slow and steady, something in the heart begins to shift, almost imperceptibly at first, like the faint stirring of wind before it rises across the hills. It is the small beginning of a lift, not of the body, but of the gaze, a subtle awareness that the eyes have spent too long staring at the dust beneath the feet, too long fixed on the hardships that sit close, too long held low by the heaviness of the day. In the hush between footfalls, the traveler pauses, letting the breath gather softly in the chest, letting it drift outward with a quiet ease, letting the world slow around them. The dimming sky above is broad and open, no longer the sharp blue of daytime, but a gentle sweep of fading color, its blues softened by violet undertones, its warm edges glowing with the last light of a sun that never fails to return. The hills stand in silhouette now, their outlines softened by dusk, their presence steady and constant, but no longer pressing in. Instead, they frame the horizon like gentle arms guiding the eyes upward, higher, toward the vastness beyond. For a long moment, the traveler simply stands, breathing with the rhythm of the earth, letting the quiet invitation within grow stronger. Lift your eyes, not to the problems that linger at the feet, not to the uncertainties that circle the mind, but to the one who rises above them, who stretches beyond them, who holds them all with a strength that does not falter. The traveler lifts their gaze slowly, tenderly, not in triumph but in surrender, a gentle willingness to see more than what the day has shown. And as the eyes rise, something inside loosens, something small but profound, as though a tight knot of worry begins to untangle, thread by quiet thread. The hills that once seemed so tall now feel smaller, resting beneath the vast, calm sky. The troubles that felt so near begin to drift to the edges, softened by distance, made gentler by perspective, less heavy in the light of the one who formed every ridge and valley. The wind moves again, brushing the face like a soft reassurance, not pushing, not demanding, simply reminding. Look beyond what is troubling you. There is something greater, something steady, something compassionate watching over each step you take. The traveler lets the breath grow deeper, allowing the chest to rise slowly, then fall in a long, steady exhale, as if releasing part of the burden into the quiet air. In that breath, the heart begins to understand a truth older than the hills. Trouble may be close, but help is closer. Fear may whisper, but the maker of heaven and earth speaks comfort with every shift of wind, every deepening shade of sky, every softening sound of evening settling into stillness. A soft glow begins to spread across the landscape, the early touch of moonlight forming at the horizon, delicate and shimmering. Its first appearance is faint, almost shy, but unmistakably gentle. The traveler watches as the thin curve of silver grows brighter, highlighting the tops of the hills, turning their edges into soft lines of light, almost like a hand tracing comfort across their shapes. Moonlight has a way of lifting what is low, illuminating what is hidden, and softening what feels hard. It does not erase the darkness, but it brings enough light to remind the soul that the night is not empty, not silent, not abandoned. The traveler lifts their eyes fully now, letting them rest on the moon rising with quiet authority, and in that upward gaze, burdens begin to ease, not because the problems have vanished, but because the heart has remembered where help truly comes from. Trouble has a way of lowering the eyes, turning the gaze inward, downward, toward the things that feel immediate and heavy, But peace has a different direction. Peace invites the gaze upward, toward the hills, toward the heavens, toward the one who crafted both with hands strong enough to hold every worry carried tonight. A small breath escapes the traveler, almost a sigh of release. The kind of breath that follows a long journey of trying to hold everything alone. The kind that softens the heart with its quiet honesty. The kind that makes room for help to enter. And above, the sky deepens into a rich, serene blue. Stars beginning to appear one by one like tiny promises scattered across a velvet sheet. Each one a reminder of God's constancy, God's nearness, God's watchfulness that never dims. The eyes, once lowered, now rest on beauty, on assurance, on truth woven into creation, and in that lifted gaze, the traveler feels something settle gently inside, a steady knowing, a quiet faith, a soft confidence that help is not hidden, not delayed, not uncertain. Help is rising, just as surely as the moon climbs above the hills. And the traveler's heart begins to rise with it. Slow, peaceful, lifted. The night has deepened gently around the traveler, yet nothing feels harsh, nothing feels sharp or severe. The air is cool, but not cold. The darkness is present, but softened by the quiet glow of moonlight resting along the tops of the hills. Each ridge and curve of the land seems traced by a careful hand, as though the entire landscape has been drawn with tenderness, not for power, but for peace. The traveler walks a little farther, footsteps soft against the earth, feeling the rhythm of the path beneath them, steady, patient, unhurried. The hills rise on either side, their shapes familiar now, no longer looming like towering doubts, but standing instead like old companions. Their presence is real, strong, visible, and yet, as the traveler continues, a deeper awareness begins to unfold within the heart. The hills are not the source of help. They are only the frame, the backdrop, the canvas upon which a greater truth is painted. For so long, the eyes have been drawn to what can be seen, to the height of problems, to the curve of responsibilities, to the solid weight of the things that press in close. The hills have seemed like answers at times, like places to climb for perspective, or to hide for safety, or to stand upon for strength. But tonight, under this quiet sky, the traveler realizes that the landscape itself is not the comfort. It is a sign, a gentle marker pointing beyond itself, toward the Maker who spoke the hills into being. The wind moves slowly along the ridge, stirring the grass in soft waves that shimmer in the moonlight. Each blade bends and rises as though bowing in reverence to something unseen. The stones that line the path catch the faint light and hold it for a moment before releasing it again, like tiny reflections of a greater brilliance. The trees stand in still silhouettes, their branches drawn upward, stretching toward the sky in a posture of surrender and praise. All of creation seems to be doing the same thing, pointing, not to itself, but to the one who formed it, who sustains it, who watches over it with patient love. The traveler lets this realization sink slowly into the soul. Help does not come from the hills themselves, from the things that appear tall and strong. Help does not come from the path, or the familiar routine, or the small securities collected along the way. Help does not come from human strength, from perfect planning, from holding everything together with tired hands. Help comes from the Lord, the Maker of heaven and earth, the one who imagined these hills before they ever rose from the ground, the one who shaped the valleys and set the course of the rivers, the one who hung the moon that now pours its gentle light on this solitary road. The traveler breathes in deeply, feeling the cool night air fill the lungs. In that breath, there is an odd mixture of smallness and safety. Smallness, because the world is vast and ancient, and the human heart is fragile and finite. Safety, because the one who holds the world also holds the heart, tenderly, intentionally, endlessly. A memory rises, of moments when help felt far away, when prayers seemed to drift upward and disappear into silence. Times when the hills of life felt like obstacles instead of witnesses. Times when the soul looked for answers in what could be touched and seen, and found only temporary comfort. And yet, even in those moments, the Maker did not withdraw, did not forget, did not walk away. The traveler looks at the hills now with new eyes. They are no longer objects of hope. They are reminders that the one who sculpted their slopes, who determined their height, who decided where each curve would rest against the sky, is more than able to shape the path a single life will take. The troubles carried tonight may feel tall, but they are not taller than the one who formed the stars. The anxieties may feel wide, but they are not wider than the sky he stretched above creation. The unknowns may feel deep, but they are not deeper than his wisdom and care. Another breath moves through the traveler, slow, deliberate, releasing tension that had settled in the chest. The shoulders ease, the muscles along the back soften, the hands grow more relaxed at the sides. The body begins to understand what the soul is slowly remembering. This night is not held by fear, it is held by God. The hills stand where they have always stood, but their meaning has changed. They are no longer silent shapes on the horizon. They are testimonies. Each slope, each stone, each shadowed curve is a quiet declaration that the Maker is capable, faithful, attentive. The one who created such beauty and strength in the land has not forgotten the heart that walks between these heights. The moon climbs higher now, spreading its gentle glow across the path. It does not banish every shadow, but it offers enough light for the next few steps, and that is often how the help of God feels. Not always an instant clearing of every question, not always a sudden bright day, but a soft, steady light for the next step, and then the next, and then the next. A companionship that does not vanish in the dark. A presence that does not depend on circumstances to remain. The traveler allows this to be enough, not complete understanding, not a map of every turn ahead, simply the deep, quiet knowing that the Maker of heaven and earth has not let go, will not let go, cannot abandon the work of his own hands. The hills, once towering with their silent mystery, now feel like a hymn, a slow, gentle song rising from the earth, echoing the promise learned in childhood and remembered again tonight. My help comes from the Lord, not from what I can see, not from what I can hold, but from the one who holds me. With that truth resting softly in the heart, the traveler feels the night grow even more peaceful. The road is the same, the hills unchanged, but the soul is different, less burdened, more anchored, quietly cradled in the realization that it is not the hills that keep watch, it is the Lord. Night has now fully gathered across the hills, not with heaviness, but with a soft, embracing calm that settles over the land like a deep, comforting breath. The moon stands higher in the sky, its pale glow resting along the ridges like a thin veil of silver, brushing each stone, each blade of grass, each quiet fold of earth with a tenderness that feels almost sacred. The traveler continues forward, steps slow, steady, measured not by urgency but by presence. The path is no longer something to conquer, not something to endure or fear. It is simply a place of meeting, where the human heart and the divine presence walk side by side. As the traveler moves deeper into the quiet of the night, a whisper of a truth begins to rise within, a truth older than the stars above. The one who helps, the one who watches, the one who formed the heavens, does not slumber. There is no moment when his attention drifts, no hour when his care fades, no breath when his keeping falters. The night feels vast, peaceful, unbroken, and the traveler senses something gentle and profound in the stillness, a feeling that most of creation is resting now. The day birds have grown quiet, tucked into their sheltering branches. The creatures of the hills have slowed, settling into the patterns they have known since the beginning. Even the wind has softened, moving with a quieter rhythm as though honoring the weight of this sacred calm. Yet in this great stillness, God is awake. Not with restlessness, not with strain, but with a quiet, unwavering attentiveness that holds every fragile breath of the traveler's life. The traveler pauses in the middle of the path, letting the air fill the lungs slowly, letting it leave even more slowly, eyes drifting upward toward the wide dark sky, scattered with stars like droplets of eternity resting upon the dome of creation, each star shining with patient purpose, steady, unhurried, constant. And in that upward gaze, the realization deepens. If the maker of these stars keeps them burning through the night, if he tends their light without weariness, if he holds them in place with effortless strength, then surely, he watches over the heart that walks beneath them. A soft warmth gathers in the traveler's chest, a slow glowing awareness that the keeping of God is not passive, it is active, involved, tender, more intimate than any watchman standing guard at the gates, more faithful than any companion who promises to stay but sometimes grows tired. God's keeping is different. It is tireless. It is eternal. It is rooted not in duty, but in love. The hills rise dark around the traveler, but they no longer feel imposing. They feel like symbols, silhouettes of an ancient assurance that stands through generations. The hills may grow cold at night, the wind may rise or fall, the moon may shift its path through the sky, but the Lord does not change, the Lord does not pause, the Lord does not sleep. The traveler closes their eyes for a moment, letting the darkness behind the eyelids blend with the darkness of the night, feeling the breath deepen, feeling the heartbeat slow, feeling the body release another layer of weight that has been carried too long. There were times, earlier on this journey, when the traveler believed they walked alone, carrying worries like stones in the pockets. Times when the silence felt empty. Times when prayers felt unanswered. Times when nights like this felt overwhelming rather than peaceful. But now, standing beneath the watchful sky, a different truth settles in. The silence is not empty. It is inhabited, filled with the attentive presence of a God who does not drift into sleep when the world darkens, filled with the quiet heartbeat of one who guards without growing weary. A soft breeze rises from the valley, gentle, almost hesitant. It brushes the traveler's face like a lingering reassurance, the kind of touch that says, "You're not forgotten. You're not wandering alone through shadow or uncertainty. You are held by eyes that never close, by hands that never withdraw, by a love that does not flicker like human strength." The path beneath the traveler's feet glows faintly in the moonlight, just bright enough to show the next few steps, not bright enough for the whole journey, but enough for right now, enough to walk without fear, enough to rest in trust. And that, the traveler realizes, is what it means to be kept by the Lord. Not that the future becomes visible, not that every question is answered, not that every shadow disappears, but that the heart is never left unguarded, never left unseen, never left to face the night alone. The hills remain silent, but their silence feels like worship, a vast, wordless praise rising from creation itself, echoing the truth whispered earlier in the soul. The keeper of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. If he watches over nations, over kingdoms, over stars and seas and mountains, surely he watches over one wandering heart on a quiet evening path. The traveler breathes this truth in, letting it settle deep, letting it anchor the soul in peace, letting it become the foundation beneath every step that will follow. God is awake, God is near, God is keeping watch with a love that spans both night and day, both fear and hope, both weakness and strength. Under the silent shimmer of the stars, The traveler feels a profound safety gathering around them, not born of certainty, but born of companionship, born of the quiet knowing that while creation sleeps, the Creator does not. The night deepens into a velvet stillness, the kind that softens every edge of the world, as though the hills themselves are exhaling after holding the warmth of the day. Moonlight drifts across the landscape like a slow-moving river of silver, pooling gently in the dips of the path, tracing fragile lines along the stones, and the traveler walks slowly, thoughtfully, letting each footstep fall with the quiet rhythm of someone who finally trusts the ground beneath them. For so long, the traveler feared slipping, stumbling, taking a wrong turn, or losing balance on uneven roads. Life has a way of feeling uncertain, as though every step must be perfect, every decision flawless, every direction known. But tonight, under the soft guidance of moon and stars, the traveler discovers something different, something deeply calming. The one who guards their steps keeps them from slipping, not by making the path smooth, not by removing every stone or curve, but by steadying the soul that walks upon it. There is a peace that comes from knowing the ground is held by hands greater than our own, a peace that settles not in the body first, but in the heart, a peace that says, even if the road tilts, even if the dark hides the details, even if uncertainty waits around the bend, your feet are guided, your steps are watched, your balance is gently upheld. The traveler slows, just enough to feel the earth beneath the soles, to notice how the path grows narrower in places, then widens again, how some stones rise unevenly, while others lie flat, how the incline shifts from soft to steep, and yet, with each change, the footing feels supported, secure, accompanied by something unseen but undeniably present. The wind rises for a moment, swirling through the nearby brush, lifting the tips of the grass with a soft rustling sound. It circles the traveler like a gentle escort, bringing the scent of cool earth, of distant trees, of night-blooming flowers that open only under starlight. There is no fear in the breeze, only reassurance, a reminder that balance does not come from the traveler's strength, but from the keeper who guides each step. A memory surfaces, uninvited but welcomed, moments from the past when the traveler did slip, times when the way forward seemed unclear, when hopes faltered, when answers hid themselves, when the future narrowed into a small corridor of fear. Times when the heart wondered, quietly but honestly, if God had stepped away. Yet looking back, the traveler sees how each fall became a lesson, how each misstep led to a new direction, how each moment of weakness became a space for grace to fill. The heart opens to this truth, slowly, tenderly, like petals unfolding under faint moonlight. Slipping was never abandonment. Faltering was never failure. Even the uncertain steps were held by mercy that never withdrew. The traveler continues onward, feeling the path shift beneath them, sometimes smooth, sometimes uneven, but always, always held. The idea settles deeper, becoming more than a thought, becoming a quiet confidence. The keeper does not simply watch from afar, he steadies, he guards, he places invisible hands beneath each trembling step, ensuring that the soul does not fall beyond what grace can gather. The hills stand darker now, silhouettes against a sky that glimmers with stars beginning to brighten one by one. Their shapes look different in the night, softer, quieter, more like resting giants who have witnessed countless journeys and never grown weary of their silent guardianship. They hold the secrets of all who have walked these paths, their stories etched into stone and soil, stories of slipping and rising, stories of fear and faith, stories of footsteps guided by a keeper who never loses sight of the traveler. The moon reaches its highest point, glowing with a pale fullness, casting light across the path like a soft blessing poured from above. The traveler watches the faint glimmer upon the stones. Each one touched by moonlight becomes a reminder. The road is not dark to the one who guides. The shadows are not deep enough to confuse him. The obstacles are not hidden from his sight. The traveler feels the heart settle into this truth, like a stone finally finding its place among other stones in a quiet riverbed. No slipping can remove them from the care of God. No misstep can separate them from the guidance of the one who keeps them steady. No trembling foot can erase the devotion of a keeper who sees every detail of their journey. Another breath moves through the traveler, slow, grounding. The body relaxes further, the spine softens, the shoulders settle, the hands open slightly at the sides, releasing tension that has lived there unnoticed. The soul mirrors this release, letting go of the fear of falling, letting go of the pressure to walk perfectly, letting go of the lie that every step must be strong. Strength does not come from the traveler. Strength comes from the one who steadies them. The traveler walks again, not faster, but freer, each step a quiet act of trust, each movement a testimony to the truth discovered beneath the stars. The keeper of heaven and earth, the one who shaped the hills, the one who holds the sky in place, holds every step, every breath, every fragile part of the journey. Even here, even now, even in the dark, the traveler does not slip, for the Lord is their steadying hand, their unseen support, their silent guardian who never grows tired. The night settles deeper into stillness, yet nothing about it feels heavy or consuming. Instead, the darkness feels like a soft blanket drawn across the hills, cooling the land, quieting the wind, bringing a peace that wraps gently around the traveler as they continue along the winding path. Moonlight traces the edges of stones and grasses, offering just enough glow to guide the steps, while the rest of the world rests beneath the protective cover of night. The traveler pauses again, sensing something subtle in the air, a shift, not in temperature or wind, but in presence, a quiet awareness rising like a warm tide from within, reminding the soul that even in the unseen spaces of darkness, the Lord stands near, so close, closer than the breath moving in and out of the traveler's chest. A gentle warmth gathers at the traveler's right side, faint at first, almost imagined, but unmistakable once noticed. It is not a heat from the earth, nor the glow of moonlight. It is a kind of spiritual nearness, a sacred presence that settles like a shadow cast by love itself, a shade at the right hand. In the scriptures, this image was always one of protection, a shield where the sun scorches, a shelter where exhaustion presses in, a safe covering against the harshness of day and the fears of night. And here, under this sky, the traveler begins to feel the truth of it. The Lord is not watching from a distance, not guarding from afar, not calling out instructions from the top of some unreachable hill. He is beside them, at their right hand, near enough to steady the steps, near enough to shelter the heart, near enough to quiet the fears that rise without warning in the stillness of night. The traveler breathes in, deep and slow, letting the awareness of this nearness settle like soft sand along the floor of the soul. The right hand, the place associated with strength, with capability, with action, that is where the shade falls, that is where the protection rests, as if God Himself has placed His presence gently over the very place where the traveler feels most responsible, most burdened, most expected to be strong. A cool breeze drifts through the valley, brushing lightly against the traveler's left side, but on the right, there is warmth, there is shelter, not a heat that burns, but a warmth that comforts, the kind of warmth that whispers, "You are not carrying this alone. You do not need to be strong for every step. Let my strength shade you, cover you, protect you." The path continues forward, winding through narrow bends where shadows stretch long across the ground. In places, The darkness grows thicker, the moon hidden behind tall slopes or drifting clouds. Yet even when the light disappears, that quiet warmth remains, a constant presence, a reminder that the traveler is not exposed to the chill of fear or the weight of uncertainty. For a long moment, the traveler slows to nearly a standstill, listening, feeling, sensing the depth of this unseen protection. The hills loom tall, their silhouettes rising like dark guardians around the traveler, but the fear that once came with shadows no longer holds power, because a greater presence stands nearer still, closer than the hills, closer than the shadows, closer than every uncertainty wrapped in the darkness. The traveler remembers the worn moments of the past, days when sun and strain felt unbearable, moments when the world demanded more strength than the heart possessed, times when the heat of expectation pressed inward like midday sun on exposed earth. And yet, somehow, there was always shade, a sudden moment of rest, an unexpected comfort, a reprieve that arrived not through effort, but through grace. That was the Lord, then, and now, and always. The path begins to climb slightly, rising toward a narrow ridge where cool wind sweeps freely across the land. The traveler steps carefully, feeling the strength of the shade at their right side grow even more pronounced. It feels like a companion walking at perfect pace, not too far ahead, not lingering behind, but matching each step with quiet faithfulness. Not every danger feels loud. Some arrive subtly, quiet fatigue, creeping doubt, the soft erosion of peace, and it is there, in those hidden erosions, that the Lord's shade becomes the most precious, not dramatic, not forceful, but steady, constant, lovingly present. The traveler rests a hand lightly against the side of their clothing, feeling the faint warmth that has become a companion on this path. It takes the shape of reassurance, the form of closeness, a shelter given not because the traveler asked, but because God delights in guarding the ones he loves. Above them, the moon shifts slightly, bathing part of the trail in silver, leaving the rest veiled in shadow. But both the light and the dark feel safe now, because safety is not in visibility, safety is in presence. The hills continue their silent watch. The stars shimmer like tiny, steady prayers. The night deepens into a quiet the soul can finally breathe within. And the traveler walks on, not alone, not exposed, not unprotected, but sheltered at the right hand of the one who neither sleeps nor withdraws. Every step forward glows with the subtle warmth of this truth. God is not only above, not only beyond, He is beside, at the right hand, always a shade, always a shelter, always near. The traveler moves forward beneath the quiet sweep of moonlight, feeling the night deepen into a gentler stillness, a stillness that does not silence the world, but softens it. Each footstep lands with a slow, steady rhythm. Each breath drifts in and out with growing ease. Each thought unwinds itself like a ribbon unraveling in the calm of evening. As the path curves through a narrow valley between the hills, the traveler briefly remembers the brightness of day, the harsh sun that sometimes glares without mercy, the heat that presses on shoulders already carrying too much, the weight of responsibilities that feel heavier in the glare of daylight, the fatigue that settles into the body not from walking, but from holding everything together beneath the burden of expectation. Day has its own kind of challenge, its own way of testing endurance, its own relentless pace. Yet the ancient promise whispers through the heart tonight. The Lord is the shade by day, the keeper who guards the traveler from the intensity of life's heat, the one who shelters the soul when demands become too bright, too overwhelming, too consuming. The traveler breathes slowly, remembering moments when daylight felt like a storm of responsibilities, when the sun hung high and unrelenting, when hope felt thin, when rest felt far away, moments when the soul felt exposed, like something fragile left under harsh light. And yet, even then, there were unseen mercies, unexpected pauses, small shadows that drifted across the heat, moments of comfort that came without warning, a breath that suddenly felt easier, a worry that quietly dissolved, strength that appeared when exhaustion seemed certain. These were not coincidences. They were shade given by a God who sees the burdens of the day as clearly as the fears of the night. Now, as the traveler walks beneath the cool glow of the moon, the promise expands, for night brings its own kind of trial, darkness that makes the path uncertain, loneliness that feels deeper when the world grows quiet, thoughts that wander into shadows harder to name by daylight, fears that whisper louder in silence. But the ancient promise continues. The Lord is the light by night, the keeper who guides through the dim places, the one who illuminates just enough for the next step, not overwhelming the darkness, but easing it with gentle presence. The moon watches the traveler like a quiet guardian, its soft silver glow spreading across the path in delicate patterns, not bright enough to erase every shadow, but bright enough to calm the soul, bright enough to show the way, bright enough to remind the traveler that darkness is never empty when God is near. The hills rise around them in tall silhouettes, dark but gentle, their shapes softened by the moonlight, their edges tracing the sky like ancient arms embracing the night. The traveler feels their stillness, their quiet strength, the way they stand firmly through sun and moon, heat and frost, storm and stillness, unafraid of either day or night, because they exist under the watch of the one who made them. The traveler's steps grow slower, more reflective, as the heart absorbs this truth. The sun that feels too hot, the moon that feels too dim, both are held in perfect balance by the same creator who holds the traveler's life. Heat does not overtake them. Darkness does not overwhelm them, for the Lord covers both spaces with equal compassion, equal attention, equal care. The traveler lifts their eyes to the moon again, feeling an unexpected peace wash gently through their chest, a peace born of knowing that the rhythm of day and night does not change God's presence, a peace born of understanding that the intensity of daylight worries and the quiet anxieties of midnight both fall under his watchful gaze. Another breath rises, slow and full, then falls, even slower, quieter, like the breath of someone beginning to trust again. Day will come, night will return, but neither will find the traveler alone, for the one who shaped the sun, and hung the moon, and breathed the stars into their steady watch, also shapes, hangs, and guides every tender moment of the traveler's journey. The path continues under the silver glow, winding toward places unseen, but worry does not press as it once did, fear does not whisper as loudly, for the heart has remembered something ancient and eternal. The keeper of day and night walks within every step, holding the heat and the darkness within his gentle care. The traveler walks on, deeply sheltered, day and night wrapped in the same faithful promise, a promise that stretches from horizon to horizon, never fading, never tiring, never withdrawing. The traveler moves along the path with a growing sense of quiet certainty, not a loud confidence, not a sudden surge of strength, but a soft, steady awareness that something unseen is surrounding them, something tender, something protective, something as real as the night air brushing their face. The hills rise on both sides, tall, ancient silhouettes shaped by the hands of eternity. Their presence brings comfort now, not because they guard the traveler by their height, but because they remind the heart of the one who watches from even higher still, the one who never leaves, never weakens, never forgets. The path curves gently through a hollow where the wind grows hushed, as though the earth itself is holding its breath, and in this softened stillness, the traveler senses it again, a presence, a nearness, a shield that surrounds not the body, but the soul. It is not the kind of shield made by human hands, not wood or bronze or stone, not something that must be lifted or wielded, not something heavy to carry or hard to hold. It is a divine shield, weightless yet strong, silent yet constant, invisible yet deeply felt. A shield that does not rise only in danger, but remains, always, wrapping the fragile places with holy gentleness. The traveler slows, feeling the quiet embrace of this protection, a sense of being enclosed, but not confined, guarded, but not restricted, surrounded, but not trapped. It feels like standing in the calm center of a circle drawn by loving hands, a circle nothing harmful can penetrate, a circle where fear cannot take root, a circle created not from force, but from care. The heart remembers the moments when life felt too exposed, when the world's noise pressed inward like a storm, when words wounded, when disappointment pierced, when the soul felt thin, breakable, unguarded. And yet, the traveler survived those moments, not because they were strong enough, not because they fought well enough, but because something unseen shielded them, something soft yet unbreakable, a grace that rose quietly between the heart and every danger it could not bear. The traveler lifts their eyes toward the sky. The moon hangs luminous above, full and gentle, spreading light across the path like a blessing that refuses to be hurried. Clouds drift lazily across its face, veiling and unveiling its glow in a slow, rhythmic dance. But even when the moon hides, the traveler does not feel darkness, for the shield of God is not tied to light, it is tied to love, and love does not flicker with the passing of clouds. A breeze glides softly along the traveler's back, warm, steady, almost familiar, as though the shield is not just around them, but moves with them, matching their pace, guarding not only steps, but breaths, not only the path, but the heart traveling it. The hills echo this truth in their silent presence. They stand, unmoving, unshaken through countless nights. Yet even their endurance is only a pale reflection of God's unending protection. The hills may stand tall, but the Lord stands taller. The hills may shelter the path from wind, but the Lord shelters the soul from despair. The traveler's heart softens with this realization. Not all dangers are loud. Most are quiet, a sudden worry, a sharp memory, a whisper of insecurity, a shadow of old fears. And God shields the soul from these as well, not always by removing them, but by absorbing their sting, by placing himself between the heart and the hurt, by turning the sharp edges into something the soul can withstand. The traveler feels that shield now, like invisible hands cupped gently around the innermost parts of their being, hands soft enough to comfort, strong enough to protect, hands that do not tremble, hands that do not grow weary. This shield is not a barrier, it is a presence, a nearness so faithful that even the night feels safer because of it. A star falls faintly across the sky, just a glimmer, just a breath of movement, but to the traveler, it feels like a reminder that God sees everything, that nothing moves without his knowledge, that nothing touches the soul without passing first through his loving protection. The traveler breathes slowly, deeply, letting this truth settle into every hidden corner within. The shield around them is not a reaction, it is a promise, older than the hills, stronger than the earth, steadier than the stars. They walk on, not fearing the dark, not fearing the unknown, for the soul is wrapped in something deeper than circumstance. The Lord himself surrounds them, as a gentle, unbreakable shield, now, tomorrow, always. The night grows even quieter as the traveler moves deeper into the winding path, not the kind of quiet that brings unease, but a quiet that feels purposeful, intentional, almost protective, as though creation itself has softened its voice so the heart can hear something more tender, something more eternal. In this hush, the traveler senses the weight of a truth that rests just beneath the surface of every peaceful breath. There are forces in the world that try to unravel peace, not always with noise, not always with visible threat, often with whispers, with shadows, with doubts that slip quietly into the mind when the world grows still. But even these quiet intrusions, these delicate arrows aimed at the soul, do not go unnoticed by the Lord. The traveler walks forward, letting the rhythm of each step soothe the body. The path beneath is uneven, but the heart remains steady, for the one who guards them does not merely watch, he protects, he shields, he stands between the traveler and every unseen danger that tries to disturb the fragile calm of the inner world. A breeze gathers low in the valley, cool and slow, bending the blades of grass in gentle waves. It does not rush, it does not demand attention. It moves as though it carries messages of reassurance, as though it whispers across the land. Your peace is not fragile, your peace is protected, your peace is held. The traveler listens, not with ears, but with the quietness within, a quietness becoming more spacious, more grounded, more confident in the presence that surrounds them. The hills grow darker as clouds begin to drift across the moon, shadows lengthen across the path. For a moment, the world dims, the light fades, the traveler sees only silhouettes, outlines, shapes without detail. In another time, shadows like these might have stirred fear, might have awakened old anxieties, might have made the traveler wonder whether something harmful lurked in the darkness. But tonight, the darkness feels different, not threatening, not overwhelming, not hostile, it feels watched. It feels known. It feels held by a presence that sees through every shadow with perfect clarity. The traveler remembers moments from the past, times when fear arose without warning, times when sorrow crept into the heart like a slow-moving fog, times when unkind memories reappeared in the quiet hours, times when peace began to unravel despite every effort to hold it together. But each time, sometimes unnoticed, sometimes only understood in hindsight, something intervened. Something steadied the heart. Something softened the fear. Something stood between the soul and the darkness. The traveler now understands what that something was. It was not luck, it was not distraction, it was not inner strength, it was the Lord. The keeper. The guard who sees every approach of harm long before it reaches the heart. The moon slips behind a cloud now, turning the whole valley into a soft, shadowed world where outlines blur. Yet the traveler's steps do not falter. There is no hesitation, no tightening in the chest, no spark of fear returning. Because the soul knows something it did not fully grasp before. God's watchfulness is not dependent on light. God's protection does not sleep in the dark. God's nearness is not determined by what the eyes can see. Even when shadows appear, even when thoughts drift toward fear, even when memories whisper unkindly, the Lord steps silently between the hurt and the heart, shielding, absorbing, softening, not with force, but with gentle strength that darkness cannot imitate. The traveler lets this truth rest deep in the chest, a truth like warm oil poured slowly over frayed edges, smoothing, calming, healing the places where peace once felt thin. Another step forward, another soft breath. The shadows feel lighter now, not because they have vanished, but because they are no longer capable of unraveling what God Himself protects. The wind shifts again, bringing a lingering warmth that settles along the traveler's shoulders, a warmth that feels like a quiet embrace, a reminder that the heart is never left alone to face inner storms, never left to battle unseen fears without help, never asked to defend its own peace by sheer effort. God guards the soul. He stands watch over every hidden corner. He places His presence where the heart feels most vulnerable, and He does so without pause, without fatigue, without forgetfulness. The traveler breathes this truth in, letting it expand through the chest like slow, steady light. The Lord will not let evil overcome them, not the loud kind, not the subtle kind, not the kind that whispers in the quiet, not the kind that stirs in memory, not the kind that rises with uncertainty. Every attempt to unravel peace must pass through Him first, and nothing passes without His permission. Nothing touches the soul without being softened by His love. Nothing reaches the heart without first being filtered through His compassion. The traveler walks on, deeply protected, deeply guarded, and for the first time in a long time, deeply at ease. The traveler moves onward beneath a sky that has settled into its deepest shade of night, a dark so gentle, so velvety, so complete, that it almost feels like a soft cloak drawn lovingly across the land. The stars shimmer with steady patience, not hurried, not flickering, but glowing with the kind of quiet assurance that mirrors the heartbeat of God's eternal presence. The path curves through a narrow ridge now, rising slightly, dipping slightly, unfolding like a long breath exhaled by the hills, and as the traveler follows it, a new awareness begins to unfold in the mind, a recognition that this journey, every step, every turn, every moment of rest and movement, is woven into the keeping of God. Not just the moments of danger, not just the moments of fear, not just the moments when the soul cries out for help, but every moment. Every coming, every going, every place the traveler has walked, every place they have yet to walk. The truth settles slowly, like dew forming on grass beneath the moon. God does not guard only in crisis. He guards in motion. He guards in stillness. He guards in beginnings, and He guards in endings. The traveler pauses, letting this realization wash through the heart like warm water flowing across tired hands. The comings and goings of life, those transitions that often stir uncertainty, are not left unprotected. Every arrival is watched over, every departure is shielded, every step that brings the traveler into a new moment is met by God, and every step that carries them away from something familiar is guided with the same gentleness. The breeze shifts direction, moving softly across the traveler's face, as though echoing this truth. Nothing in the traveler's life has been random. No turn has been unseen. No movement has been overlooked. Every step has been part of a path known intimately by the one who goes before and behind. The traveler remembers the places they have left behind, moments that once felt like losses, endings that felt abrupt, transitions that came sooner than expected, paths walked in confusion, seasons that closed without warning. Yet looking back now, the traveler sees something different. Not chaos, not abandonment, but care. A subtle guidance that shaped each departure, a quiet hand that opened each new door, a presence that never allowed the traveler to drift beyond reach. Even the difficult transitions, the ones that stirred fear, the ones that felt like standing at the edge of unknown territory, even those were guarded, wrapped in a protection the traveler could not see at the time, a protection that kept the heart from unraveling as life shifted from one season into another. The hills stretch wide around the traveler, their silhouettes rising like ancient guardians who have witnessed countless journeys. They have seen people come and go, years begin and end, generations rise and fall, yet the hills remain, a symbol of how God stands unmoved through every transition. The traveler walks again, steps gentle, eyes lifted, feeling the rhythm of movement settle into something peaceful. Each step forward feels purposeful, not because the traveler knows exactly where the path leads, but because they know the one who walks the path with them. The moon glides slowly across the sky, drawing a soft river of light across the ridge. It illuminates the path behind, the path ahead, and the place where the traveler stands now, as though reminding the heart that God sees all three at once: the past, the present, the future. Nothing is hidden from him. Nothing is uncertain to him. Nothing is unguarded. The traveler feels the breath deepen, the chest expand, the shoulders release, as the soul accepts this truth, a truth that brings rest not only for the night, but for the entire story of the traveler's life. The comings and goings of tomorrow, the decisions waiting in unknown hours, the paths not yet carved into the dust, all of them are already held in God's keeping, not tentatively, not temporarily, but eternally. A gentle warmth gathers around the traveler's heart, a warmth that feels like safety, like guidance, like the steady hand of a shepherd leading softly through moonlit terrain, and the traveler understands. Their journey has never been directionless, never been unprotected, never been unsupervised by divine love. Every step out, every step in, every path taken, every path left behind, all have been watched, all have been kept, all have been held in the unwavering attention of God. The traveler takes another slow breath, feeling the soul settle into a deeper peace, the kind that says, no matter where I go, no matter when I return, no matter what begins or what ends, God keeps me. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but always. The traveler moves gently along the moonlit path, and with each softened footstep, something quiet begins to stir within. Not a new fear, not a new question, but a memory, a gentle awakening of the past, rising like mist from the valleys behind them. The night is deep enough now that the present feels still. The wind has lowered to a soft hum. The hills stand watch like resting giants. The sky spreads wide and tender above, and in this calm, the heart feels safe enough to look backward, to remember the roads already walked. The traveler slows, breathing in the coolness around them, letting the mind drift to old seasons, places once familiar, moments that shaped the soul in ways not understood at the time. There were roads filled with bright hope, paths where laughter seemed to float effortlessly, where each new step felt like a gift, where blessings rose like sunbeams warming the skin. There were other roads, narrower, harder, marked with steep inclines and unanswered questions, where each step felt heavy, where tears fell quietly, where fears grew large in the silence. And then there were the roads that felt endless, seasons where the soul wandered without direction, where prayers seemed to echo into emptiness, where the heart wondered if God still saw, still cared, still walked beside. As these memories drift across the heart, the traveler feels a soft ache, not painful, but tender, the kind of ache that comes from recognizing just how far they have come and how deeply they were carried. The moonlight rests upon the path like a gentle hand, illuminating small stones, shimmering along the edges of grass. Its glow reminds the traveler of nights long past, nights when loneliness felt sharper, uncertainty heavier, when the steps were unsteady and the path unknown. Yet here they stand, still walking, still breathing, still moving through a world held tenderly by God's hands. The traveler lets the memories settle, letting them unfold slowly, without rushing, seeing them not with the old fear that once surrounded them, but with the clarity of hindsight wrapped in divine peace. On those days when the heart felt abandoned, it had not been. God was there, quietly, gently, faithfully guiding every unseen step. On those nights when the soul felt shattered, it had not been alone. God gathered every piece, held every tear, carried every burden when strength was gone. On the roads that seemed pointless, they were not wasted. Each one served a purpose, carving deeper wells of compassion, shaping strength that could not be learned in sunlight alone. The traveler inhales softly, feeling warmth spread through the chest, a warmth born from realizing that even the hardest roads were guided, even the darkest seasons were kept, even the most confusing moments were held by hands that never let go. The hills surrounding them seemed to listen, their ancient stillness echoing the truth that many before have walked with the same doubts, the same fears, the same questions, and each one was kept by the same keeper, the one who watches over every coming and going, every rising and resting, every step forward and every glance back. The traveler's eyes soften as they look once more over the path behind, not with regret, not with sorrow, but with gratitude, a gratitude that deepens with each remembered moment of divine protection, moments they didn't recognize at the time, moments they misunderstood as silence, but which now glimmer with the unmistakable fingerprints of God. How many times did the Lord steady the traveler when they stumbled? How many times did he whisper peace into the chaos? How many times did he close doors that would have harmed? How many times did he open paths that led to healing? How many times did he remain near when the traveler believed they were alone? The traveler exhales, long and slow, releasing the last remnants of old fear, old confusion, old wounds that still carried faint echoes of their former weight. The heart grows lighter. The soul grows steadier. The mind grows clearer. Because remembering reveals something holy, something transformative. God has never failed them. Not once. Not ever. Every road, every hill, every valley, every quiet night of questioning was kept by him. The traveler steps forward again, not to escape the past, but to honor it, to acknowledge how far God has brought them, how faithfully he has guided, how tenderly he has guarded. The path ahead glows faintly beneath the moon, a continuation of grace, a promise that the one who kept them then, keeps them now, and will keep them in every step still to come. The traveler moves onward, the path stretching gently beneath the soft wash of moonlight. Each step feels lighter now, not because the road has changed, but because something within has begun to release what it once clung to so tightly. Control, the quiet pressure to manage every outcome, to foresee every turn, to carry every weight with unbroken strength, to hold life together with hands that were never meant to bear so much. The night around the traveler is deep and still. A hush rests over the hills like a calm hand placed upon the earth. The kind of hush that invites honesty, that encourages the heart to loosen its grip, that gently whispers, "You do not have to carry everything tonight." The traveler slows, drawing a long, steady breath. The cool air flows in like a soft tide, then drifts out, easing tension from the chest, from the shoulders, from the quiet corners of the mind that still try to stay alert, even in the peace of night. The path narrows slightly, curving between two rising slopes. Their silhouettes rise like gentle guardians on either side, not towering, not threatening, simply present, steady, patient, and in their presence, the traveler feels something shift, a realization that the burden of control has been far heavier than the journey itself. For so long, the heart has tried to predict the future, to shield itself from disappointment, to prepare for possibilities that may never come, to manage emotions, outcomes, and unknowns as though everything depended on perfect foresight. But the hills, ancient and unmoved, whisper a different truth, a truth older than the traveler's fears, a truth carved into stone long before the traveler took their first breath. Control was never the source of safety. It only created the illusion of it. The traveler lifts their eyes to the sky. The stars shimmer softly above, scattered in patterns too intricate for human understanding. Constellations shaped by the very hand that guides this quiet path. Their light is steady, unwavering, and in that steadiness, the traveler feels a question rise from deep within. If the one who holds the stars in place governs the cosmos without effort, why has the traveler tried so hard to hold the small universe of their own life alone? The thought settles like warm oil pouring slowly over the soul, a gentle soothing, a subtle loosening, a soft invitation towards surrender. Not a surrender of purpose, not a surrender of identity, but a surrender of the weight the traveler was never meant to bear, a surrender of fear, a surrender of the need to know the entire map before taking the next step, a surrender of the belief that peace can only be found through control. The traveler stops walking for a moment, standing still beneath the moon's pale glow. The wind moves through the grass with a sound like a quiet hymn, soft, low, reverent, as if creation itself is encouraging the traveler to release, to yield, to let go. And slowly, gently, the traveler allows it, not all at once, not in a dramatic moment, but like petals opening in the cool of night, bit by bit, breath by breath, trust seeping into places once dominated by worry. The traveler remembers nights when sleep would not come, when the mind ran in circles, when scenarios played out endlessly, each one heavier than the last, when the desire to control was born not of pride, but of fear, fear of disappointment, fear of loss, fear of being unprepared for life's next sharp turn. But here, in this sacred quiet, the heart finally sees what fear had obscured. The Lord was always guiding, always present, always holding the traveler even when the traveler was trying desperately to hold everything themselves. A gentle warmth rises at the traveler's back, as though the night itself is leaning in. A tender reminder that surrender is not weakness, it is trust. It is rest. It is breathing without gripping. It is walking without bracing. It is living without the exhausting belief that everything depends on the traveler's strength. The hills, still and solemn, speak in their silence. They have stood through storms and seasons, through rising heat and falling frost, and never once did they hold themselves together by force. They simply stood in the strength given to them by the one who shaped them. The traveler feels this truth echo inward. They, too, were shaped with care. They, too, were meant to stand not by striving, but by being held. So the traveler lets another breath move through, slow and grounding. The body relaxes, the mind softens, the soul whispers a quiet yes, a yes to trust, a yes to release, a yes to the truth that surrender is not losing control. Surrender is placing control where it always belonged, in the hands of the keeper who never sleeps. The traveler takes a single step forward, light, unforced, not because they know what comes next, but because they do not need to know. They are held. They are guided. They are protected. And the journey does not depend on the traveler's grip. It depends on God's grace. The traveler walks forward, each step softened by the surrender that has begun to bloom quietly within. The night holds the path in its gentle embrace, moonlight drifting like pale silk across the hills, the breeze moving with a slow tenderness, the world around them breathing in a rhythm that feels ancient, steady, reassuring. Something inside the traveler loosens even more now, a release not just of control, but of the belief that they must always be strong, always composed, always capable, always steady. For so long, the traveler has carried the unspoken weight of expectation, to be brave even when afraid, to be calm even when overwhelmed, to be steady even when every inner place trembles, to move forward even when the soul whispers that it is tired. But here, under this night sky, the truth becomes gently undeniable. The traveler is finite, fragile, human, and it is not only acceptable to feel weak, it is holy, because weakness creates space for the presence of God to draw nearer than before. The hills curve around the traveler like resting giants, their silhouettes rising with quiet strength, as though they, too, understand what it means to be shaped and held by hands greater than their own. They do not stand by their own power. They do not hold themselves together through their own effort. They simply remain where they were placed, rooted in the care of the one who formed them. And in their silent example, the traveler recognizes a profound truth. Strength is not the absence of fragility. Strength is the courage to bring fragility to God. The traveler slows their pace, letting the breath deepen, letting the chest soften, letting the muscles unwind their quiet tensions. The heart opens just a little further, as though stepping into a vulnerable, sacred place where honesty is welcomed and tenderness is met with compassion. Memories rise, moments when hands trembled from exhaustion, when knees felt weak beneath the weight of responsibility, when the mind raced faster than the heart could keep up, when the traveler felt stretched thin, uncertain, overwhelmed. In those moments, the traveler often tried to hold everything tighter, tighter control, tighter composure, tighter grip on the pieces of life that felt like they were slipping. But tonight, under the watchful eyes of the moon and the silent strength of the hills, the traveler sees something different. In every moment of trembling weakness, God had been there, not shaking his head, not demanding more strength, but opening his arms, inviting the soul to rest in him. A warm breeze sweeps gently across the traveler's right side, the same warmth that has followed quietly throughout the night, the warmth of divine nearness, the warmth of a presence that does not withdraw when weakness surfaces, the warmth of a love that does not diminish when the traveler has nothing strong left to offer. For the first time in a long while, the traveler allows this warmth to reach the hidden places within, the tired places, the disappointed places, the places that whisper insecurities in the quiet hours, the places that have long believed they needed to stay unseen. And as the warmth settles there, something sacred happens. The traveler lets go. Not in despair, not in defeat, but in trust. Weak hands release the burdens they once carried so tightly. Weak shoulders loosen beneath weights they no longer need to bear. Weakness is not pushed away. It is offered, placed gently into the strong, steady arms of God. The hills seem to lean slightly closer in their quiet stillness, as though honoring this holy moment, as though witnessing a turning point in the traveler's heart. A moment when self-reliance gives way to divine reliance, when striving yields to peace, when being held feels safer than trying to hold everything alone. Tears gather softly, not sharp tears of pain, but warm tears of release. The kind that form when the soul finally understands it does not have to be the strong one. It does not have to carry every burden. It does not have to know every answer. It does not have to brace itself for every unknown. Because God is strong. God is steady. God carries what the traveler cannot. God holds what feels too heavy. God supports what feels too fragile. God watches over what feels too vulnerable. The traveler breathes in deeply once more, and the breath feels different now, lighter, fuller, freer, as though this inhale is being drawn not from fear or strain, but from trust. Trust that the arms holding them will not release. Trust that the strength surrounding them will not fade. Trust that they can rest, truly rest, in the presence of a God who delights in carrying the weak. The path stretches forward, illuminated by gentle moonlight, and the traveler steps again. But this time, the The step is not powered by self-strength, it is cradled by divine strength. Weak hands have let go, strong arms have taken hold, and the journey feels lighter than it ever has before. The traveler walks onward, the night deep and tender around them, a night that no longer feels large or intimidating, but intimate, familiar, almost like a companion that has learned the traveler's unspoken rhythms. Each step is quieter now, softened by the surrender that has taken root within. The once tight grip of self-reliance has loosened, the once trembling need to control has eased, and the heart, no longer clinging to its own strength, begins to sense something profound, something gentle, something immediate. Help is not far. Help is not delayed. Help is not waiting somewhere on a distant horizon. Help is here, closer than the next breath, closer than the traveler ever realized. A soft wind rises from the valley, curling around the traveler with slow, affectionate intention. It moves like a whisper of comfort, a reminder that the divine presence accompanying this journey is not abstract, not symbolic, not distant, but near enough to touch the skin, near enough to steady the heartbeat, near enough to fill the space between inhale and exhale with quiet strength. The traveler pauses, breathing deeply, and in that breath, they feel it, a nearness that defies explanation, a closeness not dependent on sight or sound, a presence that wraps around the soul with unmistakable tenderness. It is the keeper, the guardian, the giver of peace. Not watching from afar, not guiding from a distant hill, but walking beside the traveler with a closeness more intimate than shadow, more constant than heartbeat, more faithful than breath. The hills rise gently around them, their silhouettes glowing faintly beneath the moon's soft light, and the traveler senses something beautiful in their stillness, a reminder that the same God who shaped these ancient forms, who carved their curves and lifted their peaks, also draws near to shape the contours of the human heart, to lift its burdens, to steady its trembling places, to surround it with a nearness that cannot be undone. For a long while, the traveler says nothing, not with words, not even with thoughts. Some truths are too tender for language, some moments too sacred for explanation. Instead, the traveler breathes, and finds that the breath is met with presence, met with comfort, met with a strength that does not strain, but soothes. Memories drift upward like soft sparks from a quiet fire, moments when the traveler believed help would never come, times when the heart sank under the weight of waiting, days when the soul wondered if God saw the trembling hidden beneath the surface, nights when prayers felt like whispers lost in vast darkness. Yet here, now, beneath the calming companionship of the night, the traveler realizes that help had always been close, not always visible, not always immediate by human measure, but always present, always near, always held within the breath-to-breath mercy of God. The traveler lifts their eyes toward the sky. Stars shimmer softly above, glowing like tiny reminders of promises older than time. The moon shines with a quiet fullness, its gentle light resting upon the land like a blessing. Nothing is hurried, nothing is strained. Creation is at peace, and in that peace, the traveler feels their own heart settle into harmony. Help is not something the traveler must chase, not something they must earn, not something they must prove worthy of. It flows toward them like night wind, like moonlight on hillside stones, like the soft glow that turns the darkest valley into a place of quiet beauty. The traveler takes another step, and feels it again, the unmistakable nearness of God, the closeness of a presence that surrounds without confining, that comforts without overwhelming, that guides without force. This nearness does not rise and fall with emotion, does not depend on perfect faith, does not withdraw when the traveler feels fragile. It simply remains, steady, patient, unchanging. A warmth gathers gently in the traveler's chest, a warmth that feels like hands placed softly around the heart, holding it not to restrict, but to steady, to comfort, to let it know that it no longer beats alone. The hills around them seem to breathe in unison with the traveler, their quiet shapes blending into the night like ancient reminders that God's nearness is older than fear, older than worry, older than every moment when the traveler felt alone. And now, in this sacred calm, the truth shines clearer than moonlight. Help has never been far. Help has never been absent. It has always been as close as breath, as near as heartbeat, as present as the air brushing softly across the traveler's face. The traveler walks on, but the journey feels different now, not because the path has changed, but because the heart has remembered the truth it once forgot. God is here. Not later. Not eventually. Now. So near that even the smallest sigh is heard. So near that even the quietest hope is held. So near that every step is accompanied by a presence deeper than words. Help closer than the next breath. Help wrapped around every moment. Help that will not leave, will not weaken, will not drift. The traveler walks deeper into the quiet of the hills. The night has settled into its softest form now, a gentle veil spread across earth and sky, holding everything in a silence so tender, so unbroken, that even the smallest breath feels sacred. The path beneath their feet glows faintly under the moon's slower, lower light, and with each step, the traveler feels something loosening within, something that has clung tightly for far too long, something that has whispered its worries into every corner of the mind. Tomorrow. Its weight. Its questions. Its unknowns. For many nights, tomorrow has been a heavy companion, even in moments of peace. Tomorrow has pressed from the edges, even in the quiet hours. Tomorrow has cast its shadow, a shadow of responsibility, a shadow of uncertainty, a shadow of imagined outcomes and unspoken fears. But here, under this vast night sky, with the hills rising like old guardians and the moon shining in gentle patience, the traveler finally begins to understand. The soul was never meant to carry tomorrow. Not at night. Not alone. Not with anxious hands gripping what belongs only to God. The traveler slows, not because of weariness, but because the heart is beginning to soften, to surrender, to release the invisible burdens strapped too tightly across its quiet places. The breeze arrives again, slow and cool, not sharp, not stirring fear, but moving like a soft invitation drifting across the skin, a whisper that invites the traveler into deeper rest, into deeper trust, into the holy permission to stop holding what has not yet arrived. The traveler's breath draws in long and deep, and as the exhale flows outward, something inside releases with it, a tension, a concern, a thought that had been circling without rest. The hills stand silent around them, their steadfastness a reminder that time does not threaten God, that the future does not intimidate the one who shaped eternity, that tomorrow is not a weight to fear but a space God already inhabits. Memories of past nights rise gently, nights when tomorrow's worries stole sleep, nights when the mind raced with possibilities and outcomes, nights when the traveler tried to solve problems not yet formed, to brace against storms not yet risen, to prepare for challenges never meant to be faced alone. But God had always been there, in every tomorrow, waiting not with judgment, but with provision, with mercy, with strength, with a guidance that could not be hurried or delayed. The traveler lets their hands relax at their sides, fingers softening, shoulders lowering, neck releasing the tension held so unconsciously, the body responding to the soul's slow surrender, as though it, too, has been longing to stop trying to hold the weight of days not yet lived. The path opens into a wider clearing, a quiet space where the moonlight gathers like a silver pool along the ground, reflecting a softened glow back into the night, and the traveler steps into it, feeling as though they have entered a sacred sanctuary carved out by God for this very moment. Here, the future feels far away, not as a threat, but as something safe, carried by someone stronger, held by someone wiser, prepared by someone who loves without measure. The traveler tilts their face upward, letting the moon's glow rest upon closed eyelids, letting the breeze brush along the skin like a gentle reassurance, letting the breath form a rhythm that no longer strains under tomorrow's weight. A quiet truth begins to surface, not in loud words, not in sudden revelation, but in a soft knowing that rises from deep within. God is already in tomorrow, already shaping it, already guarding it, already present in every moment before the traveler ever arrives. There is no need to brace, no need to fear, no need to carry what God is already carrying. The traveler lets this truth seep into the deepest places of the soul, letting it settle like dew across the heart, cooling old anxieties, softening worry's grip, quieting the restless edges of expectation. Let tomorrow rest in God's hands. Let tonight rest in His presence. Let the soul rest in the peace of knowing that nothing ahead is unseen, nothing ahead is unprepared, nothing ahead is outside the care of the one who neither slumbers, nor forgets, nor fails. The traveler takes a gentle step forward, a step free of tension, a step unweighted by the burden of future fears, a step carried not by planning, but by trust. For the first time in a long time, tomorrow feels light, because it is no longer held by the traveler's hands, but by God's. The traveler steps quietly into the deeper fold of night. Here, the darkness is softer than before, not the kind that obscures or overwhelms, but the kind that invites rest, the kind that settles gently over the land like a warm, heavy blanket, the kind that signals the soul it may finally begin to drift towards stillness. The moon hangs lower now, its light growing rounder, warmer, more intimate, and the hills curve around the path like two great arms, not enclosing, but sheltering, as though the night itself has become a sanctuary created for rest. The traveler feels the body begin to slow, breath deepening, steps softening, the rhythm of movement becoming almost drowsy, as though the heart knows it is safe enough to surrender to the pull of rest. And beneath that slow easing, another truth rises gently: the traveler will sleep, but God will not. The keeper remains awake, steady, attentive, unfaltering, a watchful gaze that never shifts, never dims, never grows heavy with its own weight. The traveler pauses, placing a hand lightly over the chest, feeling the slow rise and fall, the way the breath has begun to lengthen naturally, the way the heartbeat has begun to settle into a slower cadence, each pulse a quiet reminder that rest is not something earned, but something given. A soft breeze drifts through the valley, cool, steady, without urgency. It brushes against the traveler's face like a gentle hand, the kind of touch that might come from someone sitting beside a bed, watching over a sleeping soul, keeping vigil without expectation of reward. And the traveler realizes, this is what God does. This is who He is. The one who stays awake when the world sleeps, the one who keeps watch when the mind grows quiet, the one who guards every dream, every breath, every fragile place as the body drifts into rest. The hills stand as silhouettes against the darkening sky, silent witnesses to this sacred truth. How many travelers have slept beneath their shadows through the ages? How many hearts have entrusted their nights to the Keeper of Israel? How many souls have released fear as they remembered that the God who formed these ancient shapes does not close his eyes? The traveler lifts their gaze upward. The stars shimmer with a soft stillness, a stillness that feels almost alive, as though even the heavens participate in this nightly watch, each star glowing as a reminder that the night is never unguarded, never unobserved, never empty. The traveler breathes again, slower now, a breath drawn not from alertness, but from surrender, the kind of surrender that comes only when one feels completely safe, completely known, completely held. They remember nights long ago when darkness felt threatening, when the unknown stirred fears, when lonely hours stretched long and heavy, when sleep seemed like a place of vulnerability rather than rest. But tonight, everything is different. Tonight, the darkness is not an enemy. The unknown is not intimidating. The quiet is not hollow. For the heart knows, even when the traveler sleeps, God does not. He watches. He keeps. He guards. He stays. Not as a distant sentinel, but as a tender guardian whose presence rests nearer than breath, nearer than heartbeat, nearer than dreams themselves. The traveler steps into a small clearing, where the moonlight gathers thick and serene across the ground. The space feels almost prepared, as though carved out by God's own hands for the purpose of rest. A place where sleep can come without fear, where the mind can release its last fragments of tension, where the soul can lie down knowing it will be held through every moment of night. The traveler lowers themselves onto a smooth patch of earth, the grass beneath cool and soft, the air around gentle and steady, the body relaxing as though it recognizes this place, this safety, this presence. Eyes drift closed, not out of exhaustion, but out of peaceful trust, the kind that whispers inwardly, "You are watched, you are kept, you are safe." The world grows quiet, even the wind slows its breath, as though honoring the sanctity of what is unfolding, a soul falling asleep under the gaze of a God who never slumbers. The traveler exhales one final, slow breath, and in that release, the last remnants of worry slip quietly away, carried by the breeze into the night where God alone will hold them. Help is close. Peace is near. God is awake. And rest can finally begin. The traveler lies at the edge of the clearing, the night wrapped gently around them like a soft cloak, the earth beneath warm from the memory of sunlight, the air above cool with a hush of deepening darkness, and in this tender place between waking and sleep, the soul begins to drift into a quiet deeper than silence. Not the quiet of emptiness, not the quiet of a world fading away, but the quiet of being completely held, completely watched, completely safe. The hills around the traveler rise like ancient guardians, motionless, steady, patient, their silhouettes curving upward toward a sky scattered with stars that shimmer with gentle purpose, each star a soft pulse of light, each pulse a reminder of divine nearness, each flicker a whisper from eternity to the weary heart. In this stillness, the traveler feels something settling within, something delicate, something sacred, a calm so deep it seems to come from beyond their own breath, a peace that pools quietly in the chest, then spreads like warm light through every corner of the body. Thoughts that once raced begin to slow, then soften, then drift away like small leaves carried down a moonlit stream. Worries lose their shape, concerns loosen their grip, Fears become distant like faint echoes dissolving into wide, open air. Because the soul, the inner, tender, hidden soul, knows it is kept tonight. Not by its own effort, not by its own vigilance, but by the steady, unblinking gaze of God. The traveler's breath grows longer, smoother, more rhythmic. Inhale, a soft rising of the chest. Exhale, a slow release into the quiet. The body feels impossibly light, as though gravity itself has softened beneath the presence of divine peace, as though the earth below is gentler than ever before, as though the soul is being lowered into a cradle carved out by God's careful hands. The wind brushes across the traveler's brow, soft, thoughtful, a breeze so gentle it feels intentional, like someone smoothing back the hair of a resting child, a touch meant to comfort, to reassure, to remind. The Lord is here. The keeper remains. The soul is safe. The traveler does not need to think, does not need to decide, does not need to hold anything together. Everything that needed attention has been placed into the hands of God, where it rests in perfect keeping. The heart becomes quiet. Not empty, quiet like a lamp dimmed for the night, still warm, still glowing, but resting in the softest way possible. The mind grows peaceful. Not asleep yet, but no longer wandering the winding paths of what ifs and what was and what will be. It simply sits, breathing, listening, resting in the nearness of the Lord who neither slumbers nor pauses his care. Even the body seems to hum with a subtle, soothing warmth, a warmth that feels like being wrapped in an unseen blanket, held in the gentlest embrace, supported by a strength that asks nothing in return. Nothing disturbs the quiet. Not the hills. Not the wind. Not the shifting shadows. Not the slow drift of clouds across the moon. Everything in creation seems to agree on a single purpose: to keep this soul in peace, to hold this heart in sacred stillness, to guard this traveler as they drift closer and closer to the edge of sleep. A faint glow rises behind one of the hills, not sunlight, just the moon's soft reflection, but it illuminates the ridge in a way that feels almost like a gentle smile from heaven, a reminder that even now, even as the traveler grows drowsy, even as the world dims and blurs, God's eyes remain open, God's presence remains attentive, God's love remains surrounding. The traveler's breathing slows again, longer, softer, the world beginning to fade into a comforting blur of moonlight and shadow, the mind drifting toward the quiet edges of dreams, the soul resting deeper in the arms of the one who keeps it. And in that deepening quiet, a final awareness settles over the traveler like a whispered blessing. They are safe. They are held. They are kept. The night belongs to God, and so do they. The traveler rests in the clearing, wrapped in the hush of night. The world around them has grown wonderfully still, the hills holding their breath in ancient patience, the grass lying soft beneath the body, the moon spreading a gentle silver glow that touches the earth like a blessing poured drop by quiet drop. Sleep is near now, hovering like a soft cloud just beyond the traveler's awareness, but before the final drift into its embrace, something rises gently within the heart, not a worry, not a memory, but gratitude. A gratitude so tender, so slow, so full, it feels as though it has been waiting for this calm moment to surface, to stretch, to find its voice in the silence. The traveler remains still, body relaxed, breath deep and even, eyes softened beneath lowered lids, but the heart awakens in its own way, awakens not to alertness, but to thanksgiving. For the hills that stood steady tonight, silent witnesses to God's watchfulness. For the moon that lit the path with patient serenity, a gentle reminder of God's quiet guidance. For the breeze that touched the traveler's face, soft as the whisper of a God who comforts even the smallest ache. The traveler lets this gratitude flow freely, no effort, no strain, only a warm, rising awareness that every moment of this night, every step, every breath, every unfolding truth, has been held in divine compassion. The heart remembers the long road that brought them here, a road filled with questions, valleys of uncertainty, steep climbs of fear, narrow passages where the world felt heavy, wide places where hope filled the horizon. And through every rise and fall, through every season of shadow and light, one truth has remained: God kept them. Completely, tenderly, faithfully. The traveler feels gratitude swell in the chest, a warmth that rises like a slow sunrise beneath the ribs, not bright or overwhelming, but soft, steady, glowing from within. Gratitude for the moments when God steadied their feet, when the path was uneven, dark, confusing. Gratitude for the times when God shielded their soul, from worries that pressed too close, from fears that whispered in the dark, from burdens too heavy to name. Gratitude for the presence that never left, even when the traveler felt alone, even when prayer felt unanswered, even when understanding faded like distant light. The traveler breathes in, and gratitude deepens. Gratitude for the one who walked beside them through storms, through weariness, through doubt, through longing, through nights far darker than this gentle one. Gratitude for the keeper who neither slumbers nor sleeps, whose care does not waver with emotion, whose attention does not fade with time, whose compassion does not diminish with human frailty. The breeze shifts again, warm, peaceful. It moves lightly across the traveler's face, as if acknowledging this quiet thanksgiving, as if carrying the gratitude upward, into the night, into the heart of God. The hills seem to lean closer in their silence, honoring this moment of remembrance, honoring the journey that has unfolded step by tender step, honoring the truth that every breath tonight has been lived beneath a watchful, loving gaze. The traveler's body grows heavier now, sleep pulling more insistently, eyes drifting lower, thoughts softening into gentle shapes that dissolve at the edges. And the gratitude, that warm, sacred glow, spreads until it fills every corner of the soul, leaving no room for worry, no space for doubt, only a deep, quiet knowing. God has been good. God has been near. God has been faithful. And the traveler is held by a love that does not change. As the last threads of wakefulness begin to unravel, the traveler exhales softly, a final breath of gratitude, a final release of the day, a final whisper of thanks to the keeper of the journey. The traveler lies in the quiet clearing, the world softened into a gentle blur of moonlight and shadow, the air cool and sweet around them, the ground warm beneath their tired body, and everything, every hillside, every drifting breeze, every star that glimmers above, whispers the same tender truth. The journey is kept, the soul is held, and rest is safe. Sleep hovers close now, not as something to chase, but as a gift approaching with slow, patient steps, a soft presence drawing nearer and nearer with each calming breath. The traveler lets the body sink a little deeper into the earth, feeling the way the muscles unwind, the breath lengthens, the heartbeat slows to a quiet, steady rhythm, each gentle rise and fall a sign that peace has rooted itself deep within. The hills around them stand tall and still, ancient silhouettes rising like holy sentinels in the night. They have watched many lives pass by. Many weary hearts seek rest beneath their shadows. Many travelers find comfort on lonely paths, and tonight, they witness one more soul being held by the God who shaped them. The moon, now high above, pours its last tender light across the clearing, soft silver gliding over the traveler's resting form like a benediction, a quiet blessing for the night, a reminder that darkness is not emptiness, but a sacred space where God draws close, where God keeps watch, where God holds every breath with unwavering devotion. The traveler inhales, and the breath is slow, peaceful, like a warm tide rising in the chest, exhales, and the breath releases the final remnants of the day, letting go of every lingering thought, every tiny strain, every whisper of worry. Nothing remains but the deep, deep calm of a soul resting in God. The truth settles deeper than words. The Lord will keep them, in their going out, in their coming in their rising, in their resting, in every step of the journey now behind, and in every step of the journey still ahead. Not for a moment, not for a season, but forever. Forever kept. Forever seen. Forever loved. Forever held under the watchful gaze of the God who does not slumber, who does not forget, who does not pull his presence away. The traveler feels sleep drawing them in, soft, irresistible, a gentle current carrying the soul into deeper quiet, into stillness, into dreams shaped by peace rather than fear. The hills fade slowly at the edges of awareness, becoming warm shadows, safe silhouettes, fading like familiar faces at the edge of rest. The stars dissolve into a soft haze, their glow dimming as the traveler's eyes grow heavy, closing, until only the memory of their warmth remains. The traveler releases one final breath, a breath that carries gratitude and trust, and the peaceful surrender of someone who knows they are watched by loving eyes even as sleep takes them fully. They are safe. They are kept. They are covered by the promise that has held countless generations beneath the same night sky. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And with that truth resting softly over the heart, the traveler drifts, slowly, gently, into peaceful sleep, carried by a presence that will not leave them for even a moment, not now, not ever. Rest in the promise, now and forever.